Maya graduated with a degree in elementary education in 2002. Her starting salary was $31,000 a year. She taught third grade for her entire career in the same school district, in a Midwestern city where that salary eventually grew to $68,000 by the time she was in her early 40s. On the day she retired, at 44, 22 years into her teaching career, her investment portfolio had crossed $1 million. She did not inherit money. She did not marry wealth. She did not start a side business that took off. She taught third grade, lived modestly, invested consistently, and let compound interest do what compound interest does when you give it enough time and enough to work with. Today, I am going to walk you through the exact 3 stages Maya went through, what was different about each one, and the 4 specific decisions that separated her outcome from the average teacher who retires at 65 with a pension and not much else. Before Maya's story, one important reframe that makes everything else make sense. Income is not the primary variable in wealth accumulation. Savings rate is. A teacher earning $52,000 who saves 30% accumulates $15,600 annually. At 8% average returns over 22 years, that becomes over $900,000. A lawyer earning $250,000 who saves 5% accumulates $12,500 annually. Same returns, same timeline, approximately $720,000. Teacher builds more wealth. The salary is just the input. What you do with the input is everything. Maya understood this at 24. Most people understand it at 54. That gap is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and decades of freedom. Stage 1. The discipline phase, $0 to $20,000. In her first year of teaching, Maya made 3 decisions that most of her colleagues did not. She opened an investment account the month she started working, not when she felt financially ready, not when she had a significant amount saved, the month she started. She contributed $150 per month. On a $31,000 salary after taxes, that was approximately 7% of take-home pay. She lived with a roommate for the first 3 years. In a city where a 1-bedroom apartment cost $750 per month, splitting the rent saved her $375 monthly, $4,500 annually, that went directly into her investment account. She did not experience this as deprivation. She experienced it as choosing. She drove the car she graduated with for 11 years. A 2001 Honda Civic that became an ongoing joke among her friends. She did not experience this as deprivation either. The money she would have spent on car payments went into her investment account instead. Over 11 years, that decision alone contributed approximately $47,000 in additional investments when you account for compound returns on the difference. By the end of year 3, she had $22,000 in her investment account. It felt like almost nothing. Her balance had grown by about $2,000 in the previous year from market returns alone. She could not yet feel the compounding. She showed up anyway. The discipline phase is not about the returns. It is about building the habit, the automatic saving, the lifestyle that does not expand with income, the identity of someone who is building something rather than consuming everything. The discipline phase is also the loneliest phase financially. Your peers are upgrading. Social events cost money. The lifestyle you are maintaining feels deliberately restrained when everyone around you is expanding theirs. Most people abandon the discipline phase here, not because the math stopped working, but because the social pressure became more immediate than the compound interest felt real. Here is what Maya understood that most people in the discipline phase do not. The growth you cannot see is the most important growth happening. The habit forming, the account opening, the automatic transfer running every month. These are building the infrastructure for everything that follows. The balance looks small. The foundation is enormous. 4 rules for surviving the discipline phase. First, automate everything. The contribution must never be a decision you make each month. Automation removes willpower from the equation entirely. Second, do not check your balance daily, weekly at most. The emotional volatility of watching small balances fluctuate causes more people to quit than any other single factor. Third, compare only to your past self, never to peers. Your peers are not building toward the same future. You are. Fourth, celebrate the habit, not the balance. Every month, the automatic transfer runs successfully. That is the win. The balance is just a lagging indicator. Stage 2. The momentum phase, $20,000 to $100,000. When Maya crossed $20,000, something shifted psychologically. The market was now contributing $1,600 to $2,000 annually on its own. She could see the help arriving. The account was no longer entirely dependent on her personal effort. This is the first glimpse of what compound interest actually feels like, and it is genuinely motivating in a way that reading about it never is. In year 6, she received a meaningful raise as she moved from probationary to tenured status. Her income increased from $38,000 to $44,000. Every extra dollar of that raise went into the investment account. Her lifestyle did not change. This is the decision that separates people in the momentum phase. When income increases, lifestyle almost always increases to match. Maya treated every income increase as an investment contribution, not as a lifestyle upgrade. She lived the same way at $44,000 as she had at $38,000. By year 9, her savings rate had grown from 7% to 22%, not because she was spending less in absolute terms, but because each raise went to the account instead of the lifestyle. She crossed $100,000 in year 9. Munger was right. At $100,000, the account was generating over $8,000 per year on its own. The market was now a meaningful contributor. Maya was no longer doing all the work herself. 3 rules for the momentum phase. First, direct every income increase to investments before your lifestyle has a chance to adjust. The lifestyle cannot miss money it never experienced. Second, protect the savings rate percentage, not the dollar amount. As income grows, the dollar contribution grows automatically if the percentage stays constant. Third, do not mistake lifestyle stability for sacrifice. Maintaining the same lifestyle as income grows is not deprivation. It is the strategy. Crossing $100,000 is a genuinely different experience than any previous milestone. The account is now generating $8,000 annually from market returns alone. That is 2/3 of a month's salary appearing in her account without any additional action. The momentum phase ends here. What comes next operates by completely different rules. Stage 3, the compounding phase, $100,000 to $1 million. In year 14 of her career, Maya's portfolio crossed $250,000. The account generated $20,000 that year in market returns. She contributed approximately $14,000 from her salary. The market out-contributed her for the first time. This is the crossing point that most people who study wealth eventually identify as the moment the game changes. When your portfolio earns more annually than you can save, the timeline to financial independence accelerates dramatically. Maya's investment strategy was deliberately boring. This was not an accident. It was the strategy. She held 3 funds: a U.S. total market index fund, an international index fund, and a bond index fund. She started with 90% stocks and 10% bonds, gradually shifting to 80-20 as she approached her target retirement date. Her expense ratios averaged under 0.05% annually, essentially free. She did not pay for active management. She accepted market returns, which over 22 years averaged approximately 8.7% annually. When the market dropped 34% in 2020, Maya did not sell. She had read enough to understand that market downturns are temporary, and that selling during a decline converts a paper loss into a real one. She continued contributing. When the market recovered and then exceeded its previous highs, her account benefited from the shares she bought at lower prices during the downturn. The crash that terrified most investors accelerated her timeline. In year 18, Maya's portfolio crossed $500,000. 4 years later, in year 22, at age 44, it crossed $1 million. Her peak salary was $68,000. Her average salary over 22 years was approximately $52,000. She was a teacher the entire time. The compounding phase does not require more effort than earlier phases. It requires not doing anything dramatically wrong. 4 specific decisions separated Maya's outcome from the average teacher's outcome. None of them required genius. None of them required a high income. All of them were available to every one of her colleagues who chose differently. Decision 1. She started immediately. Not when she felt ready. Not when the amount felt meaningful. The month she received her first paycheck. The 3-year difference between starting at 22 and starting at 25 on a consistent contribution plan cost approximately $320,000 in retirement wealth at historical market returns. Not because of the contributions missed, because of the compounding on those contributions missed. Decision 2. Every raise went to the investment account before her lifestyle adjusted. This is the single most replicable wealth-building decision available to anyone with a growing income. The salary increases were modest, a few $1,000s per year, as she gained tenure and experience. But each one went directly to the account. Over 22 years, the cumulative effect of this decision contributed more to her final balance than her original contribution rate did. Decision 3. She never sold during market downturns. Not in 2002 when the market dropped significantly. Not in 2008 when the financial crisis hit. Not in 2020. She held through all of it and contributed through all of it. Each recovery was more valuable to her than it would have been to someone who sold during the decline, because she owned more shares bought at lower prices. Patience during downturns is not passive. It is one of the highest value actions available to any investor. Decision 4. She defined what enough looked like early and held the definition constant as income grew. A modest paid-off home, a reliable used car, a comfortable but unimpressive lifestyle. By defining enough at 30, she gave herself a fixed target. Every dollar that came in above that target went to investments automatically, not because she was disciplined enough to resist spending it, but because the spending category for it simply did not exist in her budget. But here is what Maya never did, and this is the insight that most financial independence content misses entirely. Maya never felt like she was sacrificing. She felt like she was choosing. There's an enormous psychological difference between those two experiences. Sacrifice implies giving up something you want. Choice implies allocating something you control toward an outcome you value more. Maya drove the Civic for 11 years because she valued financial independence more than the social signal of a newer car, not because she could not afford to replace it. She lived with a roommate in her 20s because she valued accelerating her timeline more than she valued her own space, not because she had no alternative. The minimalist money framework, applied to a teacher's salary over 22 years with index funds earning average market returns, produces a millionaire, not a famous investor, not a tech entrepreneur, a third-grade teacher who made a series of quiet, consistent choices for 2 decades. Your action plan based on which stage you are in right now. Stage 1, 0 to 20,000. Open a brokerage account this week. Contribute whatever you can, even $50 per month. Get the habit started before the amount feels significant. Live with a roommate or below your income on housing. Do not upgrade your vehicle. Build the identity of someone who invests before the balance reflects it. Stage 2, 20,000 to 100,000. Direct every income increase to the investment account before it becomes lifestyle. Calculate your savings rate and commit to increasing it by 1 percentage point every 6 months. The momentum phase requires protecting your savings rate aggressively against social pressure to spend. The lifestyle you maintain in this phase funds the freedom you have in retirement. Stage 3, 100,000 to 1 million. Stop trying to optimize aggressively. Your only job in this phase is to not do anything dramatically wrong. Do not sell during downturns. Do not switch strategies chasing better performance. Do not concentrate into individual stock positions trying to accelerate further. The compounding is doing the work. Stay out of its way. The boring portfolio that Maya used is the portfolio. The specific funds Maya used and the account types that made the most sense for her situation are linked in the description below. I am Aria. Which stage are you in right now? Drop it in the comments. Stage 1, Stage 2, or Stage 3. The community here is real, and I read everything. I will see you in the next one.